Let me ask you something. Have you ever said to yourself, I don't feel anything? Not sad, not happy, not excited, just flat. And maybe part of you is wondering, what is wrong with me? But what if I told you that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you? You're not broken. You are not disconnected. You're just being protected.
Hey, and welcome to Masks Off Inner Freedom for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. This is a podcast for those who are tired of holding it all together. I'm Kim Gross, your host, and if you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but still feel anxious, disconnected, or quietly burned out, you're in the right place. Here we talk about the patterns you don't even realize you're living inside of: self-abandonment, over-functioning, chasing approval, and mistaking productivity for your worth, and more. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering who you were before you learned to perform, perfect, and please to belong. Each week, we'll slow things down. We'll unpack the nervous system, the inner critic, and the subtle ways that you learned to disconnect from your true self so you can stop living from pressure and start living from presence. This is your space to take the masks off. So let's begin.
Now we're in the month of April, and this month we are stepping into what I am going to call the feeling error. So last month, March, was all about burnout, toxic productivity, overwhelm, the inner controller, and February was all about people pleasing. I'm still going to keep tying in the inner controller because I think it's super important for us to really be able to identify the nuances of the inner controller. I'm going to keep tying it into all the episodes. The feeling error, the month of April. And here is the truth that I want to share with you. You cannot create inner freedom without learning how to feel. And before we can learn how to feel, we have to understand why we stopped in the first place. Because when you came into the world as a baby, as an infant, you felt. If you felt hungry or you cried, if you felt happy, you smiled, you laughed. If you were sad or hot, you cried. You felt things when you were an infant. And so, why did we stop feeling our feelings? And so we have to understand why we stop, because numbness isn't something that just happened out of the blue. It was actually a learned behavior. You learned how to become numb. It was something that you practiced over and over again, subconsciously, of course. And at one point, it might have even been necessary to protect you. So I want to start first by talking about what is numbing anyway. Like, what do you mean by numbing? What does that mean? Like, tingling, I can't feel anything? Sort of. Most people think that numbness means that you don't have any emotions or you don't have any feelings. And that is just not true. Numbness is not the absence of feeling. It is actually the avoidance of overwhelm. So let me say that again. Numbness is not the absence of feelings. It is the avoidance of feeling overwhelmed or feeling flooded. That's very, very important distinction. Numbness is not the absence of feeling. It is actually your nervous system saying, this is too much. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. So instead of feeling your feelings, you shut down, you stay busy. That's me. Stay super busy. Scroll on your phone. You overthink. You move on to the next thing, staying very busy and distracting yourself from actually being in the present moment and giving the feelings the opportunity to come to the surface. And this is where your inner controller comes in. It's the part of you that says, keep going. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Whatever you do, don't stop. We don't have time for this. If these feelings come to the surface, they will never stop. If we open up the Pandora's box, it will never end. So just keep going, stay on top of everything, stay busy, stay distracted. Somewhere along the way, you and I learned if I feel this particular emotion, feeling, I might fall apart. Or I used to feel that I would get sucked into this deep, dark abyss that had no end. And so I was way too afraid to go there. So, why did you and I learn to numb? Let's go even a little bit deeper. Because at the end of the day, we didn't wake up one day and decide, oh, I think I'm just going to disconnect from myself. I think I'm just going to stay distracted. I'm going to stay busy. That sounds like a good idea, right? That we didn't do that. So we clearly adapted. We clearly came up with this strategy for a reason. And maybe you grew up in an environment where emotions weren't safe. No one talked about feelings to you. You had to be the strong one, or things felt unpredictable or chaotic. So let me say a little bit more about that. Many of us may have, and most likely did, grow up in a dysfunctional home and or an alcoholic family. And there are certain unspoken rules when you grow up in that type of environment, such as you don't feel feelings. You don't even know how to identify your feelings. And oftentimes the adults in our lives were out of control in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it was the drinking that was out of control. Maybe you had a parent that would rage and scream and yell and could not contain his or her emotions. So there was this out of control behavior. And for you, witnessing that as a young child, it was very scary. It felt unsafe because one minute everybody's like happy, 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 having a good time, laughing, talking, celebrating Christmas. And the next minute, two family members are freaking fighting and food is being like thrown everywhere. I may be exaggerating a little, but I will honestly say, in all honesty, that this was my experience growing up. And so it was very chaotic. That is traumatic because it's eggshell environment. You don't know when the shoe is going to drop, so to speak, quote unquote, figure of speech. I'm always waiting for the shoe to drop, meaning you're always looking around the corner for a threat or danger. And that's when our limbic systems take over. And that's when we don't feel safe.
Before we keep going, I want to take a moment to share something really close to my heart. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, wow, this feels familiar, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the constant self pressure, I wrote a book just for you. It's called Free to Be, A Pathway to Inner Liberation, and it's part memoir, part healing guide. I share my own journey of learning how to stop living in victimhood, take off the masks, and come home to myself, but not by fixing myself, by understanding my patterns with compassion. This isn't a book full of fluff or quick fixes. It's honest, it's grounding, and it's for anyone who's ready to live with more peace and freedom. You can find Free to Be on Amazon. And if the book resonates with you, I would be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave a review. Even a few words can really help others to find it.
So when those things are happening or did happen in your environment growing up, it makes absolute sense why you would have an inner controller and find strategies or ways to seem as if you were protecting yourself. So, what did our nervous systems do? It got smart. It got smart. And it said, okay, feeling our feelings is not safe. So we are going to stop feeling our feelings. It's too scary. And instead, you and I became the responsible one, the high functioning one, and the one who keeps it all together. In an alcoholic family, or if you're in the space of adult children of alcoholics and you're in recovery, you would learn that you might be called or labeled the superhero child. The superhero child is often the oldest, but not always, but definitely the one who is the responsible one. And in fact, you might even be the one who is taking care of the adults in the family, especially the alcoholic one. So the responsible one, the high functioning one, the one who got all the straight A's, did well in school, did well in sports, had a job, was, responsible with money. Does that all sound familiar? And here is where it all connects to what I talk about all the time. And this was the theme for last month, which is the I have to energy. I have to get this done. I have to keep going. I have to stay on top of everything. You know, that energy. It's not motivation. It's not. It's protection. And it's your inner controller trying to keep you out of the emotional territory that once felt so, so unsafe. What are some signs that you can look for or identify if you are numbing? How do you know if it's you? How do you know if you are numbing? Well, here are a few signs. One, I already mentioned this, you stay constantly busy. You are distracting yourself from yourself. You feel uncomfortable when things get quiet. You scroll or you distract yourself without even thinking about it. It becomes an absolute mindless activity. You say, I'm fine, automatically. I'm fine, I'm fine. And here's another sign, and this one is deeply sad, which is that you don't feel joy, but you don't feel the sadness either. It's just this, I used to call it this like a low grade fever of numbness. I would not necessarily experience deep joy, but it was also hard for me to tap into the sadness. It was just kind of flatlined, if you will. And I was also very disconnected from myself, from my heart, from my body. I was like living from the neck up, just living in my head. And here is the hard truth about that. When you numb your pain, you also numb your joy. And that's the part that's very unfortunate, because the last thing that I want for you and for myself is to go to our deathbed and regret that we did not experience deep joy. But in order to feel the joy, you have to be able to feel the sadness too. So, how do we go about getting to the place where we start feeling again safely this time? Now this is where most people tend to get it kind of messed up. They think that, okay, I just need to start feeling everything. Like, open that Pandora's box full and wide. But that's not the best, healthiest way to go about it, because that's just going to overwhelm your nervous system again. And it's going to re traumatize you just the way you were initially as a young person. We do not want to go from numbing all the time to flooding ourselves, our nervous systems. We want to go from being numb to having safe connection. So here's how you can begin the process. Are you ready? Step one, always, I always talk about this. Instead of rushing past or through the moment, you pause. That's step one, is pause. Everybody says pause, just pause, just pause. And then ask yourself, what am I trying not to feel right now? What am I trying to avoid? What am I trying to avoid? And not necessarily what happened. You don't have to recall the story or what's happening. You just want to know, what are you trying to avoid? So that's step one. Pause. Instead of rushing, pause, slow down, check in with yourself. What am I trying to avoid right now? Step two, name the feeling. Remember, I said just a few minutes ago, very often, those who grew up in dysfunctional or alcoholic homes did not even learn how to name the feelings that they were feeling. This is where we're going to go and go deeper in the next episode. But right now, you can just try to name the feeling in one or two words. Are you feeling anxiety? Are you feeling pressure? Are you feeling sadness? Or are you feeling overwhelmed? That's it. Just what are you feeling? I'm angry. I'm anxious. I feel pressure. I feel sad. I feel overwhelmed. I'm feeling frustrated, hopeless, despair. And if you're uncertain of what to name it, you can look up, you can search or Google emotion wheels, and they give you a whole list, a whole variety of different emotions and feelings that can help guide you to naming what you're feeling. So that's it. You just name it. That's step 2. No analyzing, no story, nothing. Just name the feeling. So it's pause and then it's name the feeling. Step 3 is, can you find it in your body? This is the key, right? This is it, because feelings aren't living up here in your head. They're in your body. That's why they always say, like, the body keeps the score, because everything is stored in the body and the nervous system. So you can ask yourself, where do I feel this feeling right now? Is it in my chest? Is it in my throat? Or is it in my belly? And just notice where you find it, just locating it. The next thing is that there's the 90-second rule. Many researchers, teachers will say that it takes 90 seconds for an emotion to move through your body. So you don't need to sit there in it forever, because that could lead to flooding. So just give it 60 to 90 seconds of attention. Breathe into it. You can even put your hand on your throat, on your chest, or on your belly as you feel it. Breathe into it and just give it a minute to a minute and a half. Minute and a half. Just breathe into it, stay with it, let it move. Because emotions, when you allow them, they will actually pass through, and then they dissipate. Step 5 is to ground yourself. What do I mean by that? So again, that can just be, like I just said, putting your hand on your heart. Take a breath and remind yourself, this is safe to feel. This scared, wounded part of you just wants reassurance that it's okay, that it's safe. It's safe now to feel. Because the first time around that you felt the feelings, it wasn't safe. And then it just got pushed down and stored in your nervous system. So now you're feeling it again, and you're giving it a whole different experience. So now let's talk about the integration of the inner controller and how to reframe. And this is where we bring all of it together. And your inner controller, again, is not trying to hurt you. She's actually wanting to protect you. That's why she has been pleasing. That's why she's been performing. She's been perfecting. She's trying to protect you. And she's saying, if we don't feel these feelings and we numb out or ignore them, then we'll be okay. But now you get to let her know that it is safe, that you are safe now, and it's okay and safe to feel the feeling. to have to really talk to the inner controller and let her know it's okay. And here's what I want you to take with you from this episode, that again, you're not numb because you're weak or you're broken or there's something wrong because you never learned. You are numb because at some point it was the safest thing for you to do. But now you don't have to live like that anymore. You don't have to live there anymore. You don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to force anything. You just have to begin feeling a little bit more today than you did yesterday. So next week, we're going to go deeper, take a deeper dive into this topic and go into something that will absolutely change the way that you experience your emotions completely and fully. So make sure that you tune back in next week to take this a bit deeper. And if this episode resonated with you, I would first invite you to share it with someone who says that they don't feel anything, or just someone you know is struggling, because now you know that that's not true. It's not true that they don't feel anything. They are just numb.
As we wrap up today's episode, I just want to say thank you for being here and for taking this time for yourself. If this episode resonated with you, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast or leave a review. Even a quick star rating helps more people find this space and reminds the algorithms that these conversations matter. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, a takeaway, or something that came up while you were listening, leave a comment or send it in. Let's keep the conversation going. This podcast isn't meant to be a one-way street. It's meant to feel like a community. If you want to learn more about me, my work, or the ways we can go deeper together, you can visit my website. All the details are there. Until next time, take a breath, take the mask off, and be gentle with yourself. I'll see you soon.